Hello everyone, Walter here with the Black Film Guild, and I want to do a quick video just to show you all some little pointers and updates when you're creating your mini documentary. So I wanted to give some insight into the mini documentary that I'm creating in order to give you some inspiration or kind of just get some feedback from some different ways that I'm doing mine, and then you can maybe use some of these tips and tools to kind of create your own. It might give you a little bit of guidance. You don't have to use anything I'm doing, but I feel like it could be beneficial in the process and just helping guide you that process. So what I'm going to do is hop on into kind of the non-linear editor that I'm using, which is called Premiere Pro, and we can go from there. So hopping on in here, you can see, whoops, let's do that. There we go. So hopping on in here, you can see I'm in this thing called Premiere Pro. This is something you don't have to use. There's a number of different options you can use, such as iMovie or DaVinci Resolve or any type of social media editor that you want to use. It's up to you really what you're going to use for this process. So jumping on into it, I want to just hop in and show you all a couple of things here. So the first thing I want to show you is that in this mini documentary, I really captured a few things. The first thing that I captured is if you look here on the timeline, you'll see a number of different things here. And I haven't edited it yet because I wanted to show you all my process and kind of how I'm going to go through this. The first thing that I did is that I went ahead and filmed, which here is Candace. I filmed her, which is the person who's going to be making the complaint. She's actually doing a complaint about the lack of lighting. And so in that complaint, we see here that I have the video here, and this is her kind of speaking and talking about the issue. So that's the first thing that I did. And how did you might say, well, how did you get that information? Well, I went ahead and I looked at the template that I sent out, right? The template that shows you everything that you need to do, or that you should do, I should say, the questions, instructions, and outcomes. So here's the thing. I asked her this series of questions, and I'm going to get her to kind of go through the 311 complaint. And then I went through the production side and kind of added a few elements so that way it wasn't super stale with the interview. Because if I was just to post this interview alone, what would happen is that it would just be like, okay, he interviewed someone, but there's nothing breaking up that monotony. And that's the creative part that I want you all to think about, is that how do you break up some of that monotony with something that's more interesting? So one element that I added is that I actually have music. So if you look right here at this bottom track here, this is a music track. So I would recommend finding some type of music. You'll see here, I'll play a little bit of it. So the first thing that I would recommend is like maybe finding some music that you think is interesting or that would add value to the video that you're going to be creating. The second thing is getting the video and asking the questions of the person that you think are necessary. And the third thing is going to be adding that level of B-roll. So in between this video that I'm going to be creating with Candace, and she's going to be speaking and asking those questions, I have something called B-roll right here. So what is B-roll? B-roll is something that you add in between your video project. So let's say, for example, I have this interview, and maybe I want to cut in between that interview different things. Like, for example, this aerial video. I'm going to probably cut this aerial video in between parts of the video, in between the parts of the interview to kind of help break up that monotony. I also have this one right here, which is kind of another element, which is going to be the area in which she's complaining about, or the area which there's not enough lighting. And this is kind of giving you that visual. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create a kind of a creative element of that to kind of show what it's like during the day versus the night. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the daytime element above it, and then below it right here, excuse me, is a nighttime element. So if I turn this off, you can see how it's nighttime. So that's kind of what I'm going to show, so that way the person who's viewing the mini documentary can kind of see what Candace is talking about in her complaint, or what she's complaining about is the lack of lighting. And then the other elements that I have in here are just over nearby where it is. There's some construction, and so she has to walk in the street. And then just some other stuff where it's like maybe just her like kind of walking around. So adding these couple of small elements along with the interview and the music is pretty much the complete project. That's it. And so with that being said, I hope that was helpful with just kind of a little bit of the guidance in that process. So just think about that as we go through this process. Let me pull up this one more time so you can see it again. And this is all based on kind of what we talked about earlier, the questions, the instructions, and the outcome, right? I ask questions like, what is your name? What part of Oakland do you live in? What's an ongoing infrastructure concern? And then I actually have her doing the 311 complaint. Now you might be saying actually, hey, well, why didn't you actually complete the video? Well, I interviewed her and she actually did her entire complaint. And the thing is that now that she's done her complaint, what I'm doing is I'm going to give 311 in the city some time to actually review the complaint and actually go through the process to see if it can actually be fixed. And that's kind of how I want you all to do it, is to kind of see, hey, does the system work? What are some of the barriers to entry? How do people feel about using 311, and would they actually use it again in the future? This is all super valuable information that can be used to kind of help make the city better, and also help make sure that the resources that the city is offering are actually things that the community can use and wants to continue to use. So keep that in mind when you're making this. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions about this. Maybe you have trouble finding music, or you're having trouble creating your interview, or you're having trouble capturing that B-roll. Any of those kind of questions, feel free to shoot me an email or shoot me a phone call, or even add yourself to the Discord server. The Discord server is where I'm going to be able to answer questions right away and on the spot. And even if I can't answer it, there might be other people in the community who can help you answer that question if I'm not available. So I hope this helps you out. And as always, I'm always here to help you complete your mini documentaries. And I hope to see you guys again here real soon.